All right, Charles. So, why don't you start off by telling me a little bit about the current position you're in and what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Surely. Uh, Currently, I work for the United States Department of Treasury funded program in the state of Florida here, which is administered through the Department of Children and Families. And it's called Our Florida ERAP, ERAP for short. And that stands for Emergency Rental Assistance Program. The program was began during the COVID pandemic to essentially provide additional assistance to those Florida residents who have been affected through a variety of different ways with respect to loss in income. And so to supplement that, this program, as it is in many other states, it's just called that here in Florida, is funded through the Department of Treasury. And then as such, the program has a specified time frame. It goes through the end of the year. So it was originally initially slated to be for 1 year. And then after that, it was extended for a whole nother year. That's when I joined the program in January of 2022. And it concludes at the end of this calendar year, which is coming up rather soon, obviously. I'm the human resources manager. Essentially, my title formally on this program is human resources specialist or employee relations specialist. But I'm the individual that's assigned to this program through a subcontractor that is the government contract through, which is called Tidal Basin. And as such, I administer the day-to-day human resources functions for this program. Many of our workforce are remote. Have a corporate office in Lake Mary, where I'm at currently. However, much of the workforce is remote. They used to have a hub in Lake Mary itself, where there were about 350, 400 employees at that site. And then we have one at the state capitol in Tallahassee, where there was, not quite even 100 people there because the headquarters were more or less in Tallahassee for DCF. Then
Okay.
those facilities were no longer kept when the leases ran up on the buildings later in the stages of the program, and much of the workforce went remote. We've done reduction in forces quite a bit to bring our workforce down to virtually a small number of support staff and then the project management team at this point in the project, because it is relatively soon will be ending. So it was a temporary assignment for many of the people that were hired, obviously. And so that brings you where I'm at currently. I'd be glad to go into more detail about hands-on what I do day to day, but across all the functional areas, employee relations is a large part of it. Obviously, the employment, hiring selection has gone down because at this stage in the program, there are not a need for new hires. So doing the onboarding, offboarding, I'm responsible. Beyond that, compensation-wise, benefits. In government projects, a lot of the wages are set by what's called a wage determination. So you pay people accordingly based on the United States federal government's prevailing wage rates in particular areas, and I won't go further into that, but I'd be glad to share more. Training and development, just in part, I do write policy and procedures for the operation, or I have at this point in it, it's no longer necessary. And then management practices, I work as part of the senior leadership team to ensure a lot of the strategic goals and objectives of the program from an HR standpoint are carried out. And that kind of gives you a snapshot of it.
Yes, absolutely. And it sounds like you know a lot about the organization for only being there for a short period of time. You're really knowledgeable about,
Thank you.
how many people have worked there and all the locations. So that's great. That means you have a good grasp on it. So
Good.
that's great. And I mean, your other positions that you've held, human resource manager, and things like that. I mean, it is pretty self-explanatory on your resume. You've dealt with workman's comp,
Mhm.
payroll,
Absolutely.
And I mean 401k plans and all of that stuff. What platform are you using for in the past? Have you used ADP? Have you used
Yes.
Paychex? Okay.
Great. That's a great question. HRIS systems and
Mhm.
payroll applications, both. I've used, well, ADP, I actually implemented a Workforce Now platform for Pemco Corporation, which was my responsibility in HR. The payroll fell under HR. They were using a somewhat disconnected system when I joined them. Ceridian was the payroll software, but the time clock did not integrate with it. So you had to actually uh, take the information, extract it, and then upload it on an Excel spreadsheet into the payroll software, which is very meticulous and leaves a large margin for error. And it can be very tedious, obviously. So I suggested we go with a more updated, more streamlined system. And that was ADP Workforce Now after researching and working on it myself. Prior to that, I worked on it. It was called, wouldn't call Workforce Now. They had a ADP system called Pay Expert um, back in the earlier 2000s, and it evolved into essentially Workforce Now. So I'm very familiar with it in terms of the modules, the HR benefits module, time and attendance module. We even had the recruitment module, various areas, various other HRIS systems I'm well familiar with too. I've worked on SAP. I've worked on PeopleSoft, which is driven off an Oracle platform, and Ceridian. And there's probably one or two I'm leaving out. Lawson at the hospital, they went to it, and that would be more pure HRIS. And then payroll for, depending if the payroll function fell under HR or finance, the financials would, talk with one another with the HR inputted data. Applicant tracking, candidate management systems, similarly, uh, by those that I've already named, they would be also part of those systems too.
Okay.
So very much hands-on and administered them as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Now, moving into your next role, what are you looking for in a position?
Well, I would like to continue my career in HR, professional position in the immediate area. Obviously, that would be um, have opportunity for me to use my background and skill sets, as well as to potentially grow with the organization and obviously have some stability and longevity as well. This is a temporary assignment, so that coming in, but something more long term, and possibly even advance in the future if that would be potentially available. And
Sure,
I think that
absolutely.
those would be, the primary reasons. And, I enjoy HR, always have. I want to continue working in it and in somewhat of a generalist capacity because I really enjoy across the board, hands-on, you know, probably interaction with employees and
Right.
in leadership at the same time, but not just specifically in one area like compensation or trading or something, but we have the full gamut. So
Sure.
that would be ideal in my situation.
Okay, perfect. Awesome.